welcome to episode 3 of The Corporate, The Character, and. So as the previous formats, we've left the and open to allow our guest to title themselves, give themselves a name. Today we've got someone with us, the co-founder of Serotonin, the Businesswoman of the Year 2023, 2021 Insider 42 under 42, and top 10 female entrepreneur to watch by The Telegraph 2022. Before I introduce this person, from our point of view, if I put it into context of a story, we met this person 2 weeks ago, had a great conversation, went really well. We jumped into the lift having left that person, and Olly turned to me, nearly made the lift drop to the floor, tried to hug me and went, "Oh my God, what an amazing woman. I want her to work with us."
I really did.
So,
that's so nice.
Welcome, Clair Heaviside.
Thank you. Wow, what a nice intro.
There you go.
Thank you. That's really good to hear. I also left that conversation buzzing. I think that when you get that energy between people and it really does kind of come in something quite palpable, doesn't it? And you're like, yeah, we've really got something exciting here. So hopefully this episode is going to do justice to that original conversation.
Yeah, I think that's from our point of view. Olly just wanted to work with you. He's like, I don't know how I'm going to work with her, but
I did.
We need to work together.
I think you got a good story. I mean, I think the accolades that George just started with and kind of just reeled off do also explain a lot about you, but I'm going to try and better that and ask you a couple of questions and try and get to explain to the viewer or the listener exactly who you are and break you down a little bit and what you've done. So, the corporate, the character is obviously left open. What would you describe yourself as? Now, it doesn't need to be a business term. What would you like the outside world to see you as?
I'll be the creative, because I think it gives me a license to do, say and be anything as it within this podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll be the corporate, the character and the creative.
And I think that's also comes when we met you 2 weeks ago in your office. You've got a little motto on your wall, haven't you? And I think that means quite a lot to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, we've had it there since we first started the agency, which is over 5 years ago now. And it's in big neon lights, which is the law. If you have an agency, you have to have a neon sign on your wall.
Obviously.
And as says, good things come to those who create. And it does mean a lot to me. I think it's been a real undercurrent striving force behind the development of the agency. And what I love about it is that certain people walk into our office and they get it. And the people that get it are our kind of people.
Yeah.
So the clients that are, really pushing for something or building something or have big ideas and want to take risks, they get the fact that creating can come from anywhere and creativity can come from anywhere, and that they're building great things and good things. And the same for people that come and work for us. They have this belief, good things come to those who create. And that means you attract doers, people that take action. And so I really love the quote.
Yeah.
I love the impact it has on people as well. So the fact that you guys,
you guys
remember it shows you're our kind of people.
Well, we sat on the sofa as we came to meet you that day and we took a picture of it because I guess it hits you in the face, you're staring at it. It was nice to let us almost linger in that office and look at it before we met you.
Yeah.
It's just, it's obviously a lasting memory. So,
And I think that in this day and age now as well, the more and more I delve into marketing and get interested in the branding side of our own company, I actually see a different side of creatives, and it's actually really hard. Yeah. Being a creative is difficult because I don't know what your opinion is, but I feel you either have it or you don't. I don't feel like you can build on your creativity. Atul said last week or a couple of weeks ago that you can learn to draw. I don't think you can learn to be a creative.
It's a really tough one, actually. I think I'm inclined to agree with you, although I do think that there's a lot of people that have creativity inside of them that they're not aware of and that can be unlocked. And I think a lot of it comes down to courage and conviction in ideas. So creativity for me is about being able to join the dots between unusual things. It's not about necessarily making something that's never existed before, but it is about being able to connect the dots between things, see them in an unusual way, and then communicate that to people in a way that resonates with them. Creativity to me is about understanding people and that level of communication. Those things I think you can bring out of somebody and you can encourage out of somebody, but I do also agree that the kind of really driven kind of best creatives that I've met, they're aware of this thing within them, and they are working hard at it all the time. And yet, believe me, it is hard work.
And you mentioned obviously, working all the time at that. Do you find that a constant, or is it a wave? Do you find yourself peaking and troughing with that creativity, or do you feel like you're constantly...
I think that this will become a theme of our conversation, because a lot of what I believe and the way that I behave is around endurance, and I'm sure we'll get onto that later in some depth. But I do believe that you have to keep working at things. So I see a lot of things on LinkedIn or posts. People say, if you don't have an idea, just go for a walk and an idea will come to you. I'm sorry, that's not the reality. The reality is that prior to going on that walk, you have to have done the work. Mm-hmm. You have to have done the research, really thought about the message that you're trying to convey. You have to really understood the business or the brand or the problem. Yeah. You have to really have done that piece of work, and then by all means go for a walk. Sure. But the idea and the creativity doesn't just land on you because you're walking.
It's not that bing, I've got it.
Something has to be swimming around in your mind for that then to connect, for that connection to be made. And that is something that you have to work really, really hard at all the time. And then layer on top of that, not being afraid when the idea isn't there, and knowing how to handle it. Yeah. These things come with kind of experience and a lot of work. And we'll get into it throughout this podcast, but working hard at things day after day and doing the work, that's really something that I've learned is critical, and good things don't come easy.
Of course, yeah. Well, I'm just going back on your point on Atta when he did say in the first, anyone can draw. For this podcast series, I'm teaching myself to draw on the iPad at the moment. So at the end, I'll show you how badly I am.
Prove it wrong or prove it right.
I've sent him a few versions just to say, look, I'm learning. But,
Great.
Creativity it's from my point of view, it's a master skill, and it's something we don't all have, but it's something we would love to have.
Yeah. I went on your LinkedIn yesterday. You may have seen me snooping, but that was just to get a rapport on what I'm going to ask you. But I noticed not only have you got a lot of accolades, but you've been a busy bee over the years. So where did your journey start?
Okay, so this is an unusual journey I've had, and a broader story, but I'll try and give you the highlights.
Yeah.
So it started for me in prison in 2004.
You weren't there.
Well, in 2004, I started an organisation called Odd Arts. I actually started it by going over to Brazil and being inspired by a theatre practitioner, politician, and the theatre company that he had created. It's called Augusto Boal, and he'd created this theatre company over in Rio de Janeiro that was actually changing laws by enabling people to use the arts to communicate about oppression. I learnt those skills and brought them back to the UK and founded this company called Odd Arts, and we worked in prisons, drugs rehab units, with the probation service, with communities all over the country, delivering these issue-based arts workshops. I'm really proud to say that organisation is still going. It's now a charity, and they've just celebrated 20 years. Wow. My co-founder of that company is Rebecca Friel, and she was awarded an MBE last year for her work to community arts, which is incredible. Wow. And that was a huge part of my life for 8 years, travelling around, putting myself in these insane situations, usually backed by quite a lot of naivety, but needing to encourage people to participate in something that perhaps had never even imagined themselves doing before. I left Odd Arts and went and continued working in the community arts scene over in Liverpool, and then eventually started just doing a bit of kind of copywriting on the side. Yeah. I went from there into agency world, and about 5-6 years ago, I left. I'm working for other people in an agency, and thought, I think I can do this better. And as often people do, go away and then established the agency with Dom. So it's when I look back, I think, yes, that makes sense, that journey, because I always have been fascinated by people and creativity and communication. But at the time, it was kind of like, how did I get from prison to sitting in an office in an agency? But I think now, on reflection, it makes sense.
It's all stitched nicely together.
Yeah.
And we're going to snip that up and say it all started in prison.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to use that as a social
I'm
post.
I was waiting for your story. I was here for it.
I'm giving you all the sound bites, don't you worry.
That's what they call sound bites. Yeah, we need to learn that. So obviously then you mentioned the the partnership and founding Serotonin with Dom. This obviously Olly knows Dom from a is it from
Where
Deansgate?
we used to live,
Where
yeah,
we
from
used to live?
Deansgate Square.
So-
Another shout out to Deansgate Square.
How crucial is Dom in the process of persuading you to set up the business and I suppose starting out?
Because you and Dom are quite similar, aren't you? Or have become quite similar.
Yeah, so unusual to say to hear that. I think that on the surface of it, Dom and I are very different.
Yeah.
Really, really different people. How we kind of present ourselves and our behaviours and our perspective on certain things, the way that we respond to things in a working environment, all of these things can be really different. And I think that variety is really great for the agency, particularly for our team, because it means that they can relate to either one of us. But underlying all of that, you're right, we are very similar, I think. And it's that grounding, that drive that we both have, ambition, risk taking. We're both doers. We both really push ourselves and each other. And we both have a real belief in each other and in ourselves. And that as a partnership is extremely powerful. So how instrumental was Dom? I mean, absolutely fundamental to it. I wouldn't have been in this situation, I don't think, if it wasn't for the partnership that I've got with Dom, and I'm extremely grateful and lucky for that. We really trust each other.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's such a big part of having a kind of co-found relationship.
Yeah, well, one of the key things that we've been asking people is in relation to partnerships, and me and George have, again, the corporate, and I am now known as the character on this podcast anyway, that the partnerships are so important, and I do feel like even in a small amount of time working with George, I know that he's got my back through thick and thin, and we'll all work together. So how did you actually come to meet Dom?
So we worked at another agency together. I was already at that agency and been there for about 4 years. And then Dom started as kind of on the real media and digital strategy side. I'm obviously on the kind of creative side of marketing. That partnership is really important in marketing because you must have somebody that really understands brand and creative and somebody that really, really gets about how to amplify that creative across channels and is really on the pulse of the changing landscape of digital in particular. We grew a department within that agency. We pitched well together. Clients really bought into us as a pair.
Nice.
And it almost was a bit of a no-brainer. When I left the agency and went freelance for a year, I was kind of saying to Dom, there's a big wide world out here and I think we can do it.
So you'd already tested that duo and you knew it worked well. I guess that's a nice, and if you were just chatting to each other saying, come on, let's do it, that's a nice little way to do it rather than taking the jump and saying, someone want to come on this journey with me.
Yes,
you knew you'd complement each other. Would you say there is a corporate and a character as well, or would you say you're a creative and a creative?
Oh, no, I think that... I think we take turns. I would say in many ways, Dom is more of a character. He is a visionary in a sense.
Yeah.
He has a lot of big ideas and is really up for trying things and pushing things, and is always the one that's questioning what next.
Sure.
Sometimes I'll be a more stabilizing force, I think, within that's kind of wants to plan things out and just pressure test whether that's the right route to go down. But there's always dials that people go through, isn't there? And I think as long as you've got a partnership that's built upon fundamentally really trusting each other and believing in each other, then you kind of allow each other, don't you, to go off and
of course, and
flourish.
have the confidence to challenge each other, I suppose, as well, when it's not a right idea or whether you think you know something better. It's having that confidence to stand up and say, are you sure?
Oh, yeah, we definitely have that, yes. Yeah.
Like every partnership, you always have disagreements, whether that's at home or it's in the office. But one question I want to ask you was, your growth at Serotonin has been really impressive, and I do kind of see you guys everywhere now. But is it difficult as a creative? Because I know creatives and they're almost wild and want to conquer the world consistently. Have you had to, as a business owner, tone down not your creativity, but the ways that you work compared to when you used to work for an agency?
No, I think that I feel much more kind of freedom and ability to take risks creatively. If we think that something feels right in the moment, then it's more than likely we're going to go for it. Having said that, I do think that we have quite a mature and considered approach to how we've been growing this agency. So lots of people have kind of commented on explosive growth and massive growth and everything's, and it seems like this is you're everywhere and this kind of things. It doesn't happen without real consideration and making sure that the back end of the business is really functional and everything is in place. So, on the face of it, there's a real kind of push for creativity and risk taking, but really we spend a lot of time making sure that the business is well established and solid in the background.
Controlled explosions.
Controlled explosions.
Explosions. Well, that kind of goes nicely on to the next pointer kind of thing. Is you've obviously mentioned the background. When we met, you obviously said that you've got quite a lot of staff that have been with you since day dot. And I think in this day and age, that not client retention, but people retention within business or employee retention is really important. How have you managed that, and how have you got these people to just stay with you?
I'm just so lucky. Our first employees are still with us. They've stayed with us through COVID and come out the other side. These are the people that I think have set the precedent for the culture within the agency. Nice. And I think that I can only put that down to luck. We had our 5th birthday last week, and one of the things that I said to the whole team, I identified these people who had been with us, for nearly 5 years now, and I said, you had no business trusting us 5 years ago. What on earth were you thinking? You should have got a proper job. And you came and worked with us. And the thing is that I've seen them progress. So I've seen one of them get married, buy a house, move his way up from being a PPC manager to a senior account director. I've watched another one move out of home, get her own flat, and now she's head of paid social. And these people are growing within the agency because they see it as being a kind of safe space for them to do that. They know that we believe in them, and we show them that we believe in them and that we trust them. We give them room to make mistakes and we back them. And I think that is a real kind of two-way, transparent relationship between the people that put their trust in you as an employer and the way that you trust your employees to come on the journey with you. And honestly, it's luck. We really hired well. And I am very, very grateful for the people that have come on this journey and stuck with us.
It won't be lucky, though, going forward in terms of future growth. Those are the people that are going to install that culture going forward. So, you're lucky now maybe, but you're now entrusting them, aren't you? When you're scaling up to Serotonin with 100 staff, it's going to be, they're going to be the people leading the way, aren't they? And driving that culture. Yeah,
well, our two businesses are very similar, similar age. We set up Consensus 6 years ago, and my mantra, and I want to get your take on it, is that I always wanted Consensus to feel like a family. I feel like potentially you've got that at Serotonin. Do you feel like it's one big family?
I always the family thing's weird, isn't it? Because people kind of don't like it when you say that your business is like a family, because family almost enables people to kind of get away with things with each other and
too soft
and enable things and it not necessarily being a healthy thing. But I get what you mean when you say it, because what you're saying is that it's creating a space where people feel that they've got that safety and that security, and that people are there for them. And I think that is something important that comes from the top. It has to be instilled by the leaders of the business or the heads of department, and you can put things in place to enable that. So really good communication, updating people on where the business is going, making sure people understand what their individual progression pathways are, all of those things. So it's like a family, but it's got to be structured. There have to be boundaries to it. And you have to be prepared to have difficult conversations.
I feel like you have to have that in your family anyway. And that's why I kind of get I mean, I started the business with my family, and we've got family members who work with us. But then I feel like, would you say that we've got a family atmosphere?
I'd say so, yeah. And I think, I suppose you wouldn't sit in 5 or 6 different group chats with a lot of the business owners and employees, I suppose, and have open conversations. I think it's maybe not family, maybe friendship.
Definitely.
And that makes it far easier to have sometimes a difficult conversation. It does make it difficult to have difficult conversations as well, but you just move to a different group chat depending on who you're talking about. But it definitely is a family. It definitely is.
You've been talking behind my back, George.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's definitely a group chat without you in it.
Oh yeah.
Come on, you're that guy.
I want to know. Yeah, I am that guy, definitely.
But yeah, definitely a family. You've got to have that culture. You're all right. Outward facing, if you say you're a family run, family owned business, I think it works for a timber merchant or maybe a small company that's wholesale selling materials, I think it carries a nice vibe. But I think if you're going to be a professional business selling professional services or marketing services or big ticket sales like we are in terms of office fit out, I think it does carry a bit of a stigma for some.
Yeah, because on our branding recently, Claire, just to get your take on it, is that we've kind of stepped away from we're a family-run business. Although I like the ethos of having a family, we've stepped away from family-owned, and I feel like that had a detriment to us, didn't it, in the past? It was like we were small fry. Do you get clients like that as well, where you have to take them away from their humble beginnings and release them?
That's my joy.
Is it?
Yeah, that's my joy. Being with and talking particularly to founders and business owners who have identified that they are at a transition point in the growth of their business, or they're about to start a new chapter. Sometimes they don't quite know what that chapter looks like. Yeah. They'll know what they're trying to achieve or where they want to get to, but they can't see it, they can't feel it, they can't capture it in words. And that's my joy. That's what I really love, working with people who are at that moment, who are thinking about things I've identified maybe. Perhaps being family run isn't the way that we want to present ourselves to the world, but we don't want to lose that. You talked about ethos of being family run and the values of that. So it would be a case of working with you to understand that ethos, those values. How do we make sure that doesn't get lost underlying within the business and is still there in the way that we behave, without having to slap a label on it and say, we're a family and this is a family run business. And then we can make sure that we're not losing any of that, that good stuff, but we're putting you and setting you up for that next chapter. And I love those conversations. Those are the conversations that keep me going in this industry, because there's so much creativity that comes out of that, so much unique storytelling.
Yeah.
Family founded, I think that's where we
family founded.
We're not dropping that aspect.
We have. Do you feel like back in the day, when I say back in the day, but even 10 years ago when I started, people didn't want to spend money on marketing and branding, but now the world is going down that route of you need to be, even in our industry that's archaic, which is apparently 50 years behind the times. People want, we want a brand, we want Consensus to be this brand of, I don't know. We're one of those companies that you probably would love to deal with, that we're on this journey, we know what we want. But do you feel like people are taking it more seriously on marketing and branding, or is it still a conversation piece where you have to convince someone that it's the right thing to do?
I think it's definitely getting a lot easier for people to understand the value of branding and storytelling and positioning, and understanding that that's really not just important, but becoming a non-negotiable for their growth. And the interesting thing that I'm finding is how sectors like the one that you're in, I have clients in engineering and construction, where you're talking about kind of quite legacy industries in terms of branding and marketing, and we're getting really creative brands and founders who are wanting to do something that's different and not necessarily disrupt. It's not about disruption, but it's about evolving and moving things forward and bringing things up to speed, because they're looking sideways at other sectors and going, hold on a second, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing that, and there's no reason why we can't do that. And again, I find that hugely interesting. And I think when you combine that with the absolute the vast landscape of marketing channels that are available to people now, not even just talking about digital, but there's so many different ways that you can reach your audience, and there's so many different ways to tell your story that pretty much every business and brand has got really no excuse not to be exploring how to grow through these types of channels, because there is a way, and you can just saying, we're a legacy industry and nobody's interested, is just not true anymore.
I think there's you're absolutely right. From my perception, there's a massive lack of understanding of what marketing, branding, digital branding, website and PR is.
Yeah, because when you came into us, when we first had our initial chat, George come from a corporate world, and that's all he knew. And when he came in, I said, I want to do a podcast, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be different. And I feel like you bought into that as well. And you've now seen that it is something that to be taken seriously.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I never thought I'd be involved in it. I thought I'd be stood outside of it. Again, I've got a sister who does marketing. She's
and your brother?
My brother's he's on the journey of his younger brother's on the journey of trying to understand digital marketing, and then I've got a wife in PR. So suddenly, over the last 3 years, I've really started to appreciate it and understand it. And I still don't get a lot of it. I understand you've got to do certain things to reach an outcome.
I mean, I think in the past it would be a case of putting out a press release about a new business win was seen as, or putting out a press release of a case study of a project that you've done. You do that 4 times a year, and
tick.
Bosh, marketing, completed it, mate. But now I think there's really no excuse for any business not to be positioning themselves in a way that is unique and gives them a platform, in the same way that this podcast in itself is a really innovative way to look at reaching your audience and beyond, but also really standing for something and getting people to know who you are and wanting to therefore work with you. And so it's a really great move.
And where do you see the vast landscape of marketing going? What does marketing look like, or what does serotonin look like in the next 5 years?
I think it's really hard to predict, isn't it?
Yeah,
but there's some indicators of things that we should not be ignoring at this stage. I hate to say AI, but
AI. This is the thing.
What do we even mean by that?
Yeah.
But like, how it's more of a tool and how we use it. And I think for me, a lot of brands will start to use tools like AI to enhance the way that they enhance is a controversial in itself, but to enhance or to make easier the way that they communicate with people.
Yeah, almost refining.
Yeah, to refine and to understand their customer and to personalize their communications. I think the other thing that's really interesting as well about the direction that marketing is going in is the need for brands to understand that they cannot pull the wool over their consumers' eyes anymore when it comes to advertising and advertising techniques. So we've already seen us, as an industry, move towards, first of all, influencers, paying a famous person to say that they like your product. Now we can't really do that anymore because that's inauthentic. User-generated content, and now content creators really owning the brand and being part of the brand story. So this real blend of your customer becoming the creator of your brand is quite hard for brands to get their head around, because they've spent a lot of money creating brand guidelines, and there's a certain way of saying things.
And then there's bad ways of going around like that, like someone who's miles bigger than us, but Stephen Bartlett's obviously come under fire recently because he was doing his podcast. Everyone thought these people were really great who were coming on, and it turns out he was either on the board or owned a bit of that company. Yeah. And is that where
the industry isn't
blur?
The industry isn't ready to regulate this type of thing, so we can see where it's headed, but we're not quite ready for it yet. It's. But I don't think that any brand can really ignore this direction of creators, because we will continue to keep creating content, and that's what the platforms will want. I mean, the other thing I think to really think about in terms of just on the flip side of that, in terms of where things are going, is about ownership of data and businesses owning the data and the way that they communicate with their customers. So not becoming overly reliant upon single platforms, particularly these third-party platforms and Meta, for example, and doing all their advertising through that, but making sure that they own and communicate directly with their customers, whether that's via email or real events. And I think that real life events, we've gone full circle and we're back to real life again. I think that's a really important, something that I'm really seeing growing as well, whether that's through brand partnerships or through, brand experiences. You see brands taking customers away on trips rather than influencers now.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
I saw a post the other day, and again, I use LinkedIn more than anything and any social app, just because obviously I spend more time focusing on my business than I do on my social life, clearly. But loads of my friends do B2C marketing, and they're really good at it. And then I saw a term the other day on LinkedIn of someone saying, in 2024, is a LinkedIn influencer actually a thing?
Oh, definitely. It's already a thing. It's already a thing. It was already kind of sponsored content from LinkedIn, people on LinkedIn and brands, particularly when it comes to kind of business tools that people are being sponsored, and you can do sponsored posts through creator content on LinkedIn already. So yes, it's certainly a thing, and already, and it will continue to grow.
Because I'm seeing actual companies that I never thought I'd see on LinkedIn now posting and using that, and also every time I go on the app, it seems to have an update. So now there's reels now. You can actually scroll up, and that element of just scrolling up keeps you on the app. It's almost like it's capturing the engagement.
Yeah, and it's catching up, isn't it? I think just even last night, you and I were trying to work out how we start promoting this podcast, and I sat on
tips.
I sat on LinkedIn experimenting, and I didn't realize you can do everything you're almost doing through TikTok and Reels on Instagram that you can actually do in LinkedIn now.
Yeah, the platform's moving at pace to keep up with the others, and I think that there's still a lot of opportunity for brands and individuals on LinkedIn. I'm an avid user of LinkedIn, as you both know. And I think it's a space that if you're not on it, it's worth exploring.
I think you're absolutely right. And then it enables us now. We are trying to obviously develop a brand. We're trying to develop our own faces in the wider market to promote Consensus at the same time. It shows you different people's personalities. People are now engaging. It's amazing how many positive comments we're getting on there.
People keep saying, "I keep seeing you everywhere," and I'm like, "What?"
Well, people reacting, and that again, it showed us the power of what it's doing. But it's enabling the likes of you, obviously, to open up what you do extracurricular, which leads us on obviously nicely to our...
I'm going to let you ask the next question because you've been gatekeeping all this time about what you've done in the past before you joined Consensus. So
I am a super
I'm going to
athlete.
let you introduce this next one.
So for those of you who don't know, that obviously whilst Serotonin from Claire's point of view is a great milestone in your career, outside of work you do a hell of a lot more than most people know, a hell of a lot more than any normal person would do. Tell us about your hobby, Claire.
You even made it into a small little newspaper, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so I love the way you've differentiated between normal people and me.
So you're pretty abnormal.
That feels good. That feels really good. So no, I'm a runner. It was only a matter of time before this podcast came round to me talking about running because it is my passion and I love talking about it.
You don't just run though, do you? You're not your average. I mean, I've done a 5K this morning, but you're not just doing 5Ks, are you?
No, I long distance ultra running. So I love to run long distances. That's a real. It's not just a passion of mine. It's really become a huge part of who I am, and partly because it's taught me so much and changed my mindset. And in building this endurance mindset and learning so much about myself through running, it's become something that is now just instilled within me. That is, I love it.
Mm-hmm. A routine.
The routine is really, really key. So the Financial Times article was about my run commute. So
run commute.
My run commute. So on a Monday, I take my suitcase into work with all my clothes in for the week. And then Tuesday to Friday, I run to work. And I live in the Peak District. So running to work is about 20 kilometres. And that is something that I've been doing for a year and 10 months. And every day. So
come rain or shine.
Rain or shine. I've never, ever opened the front door, looked at the weather, seen it raining or snowing or whatever it is, and then shut the door. I've always stepped out the door and put my head touch on, put my gloves on and just gone. And the Financial Times got hold of that story because they were doing a big piece about people who were turning their commute into kind of something that was really active and productive for them. But for me, the key thing about that is the routine, like you say. So instilling this mindset and behaviour that I am not going to negotiate with myself about whether I run or not. There will be nothing that will stop me from running. I will go. And I will do something, even though it's really, really tough and it's hard and it's cold and it's difficult. Yeah. I'm going to go out there and do it. And honestly, the pride that I feel in myself for having done that is greater than the accolades that you said at the beginning of this recording. Because I just think that has built in me such a sense of resilience and self-growth and mindset training that it's kind of moved into every single aspect of my life.
Yeah, well, I think you're... unlike me, you are the only person probably in this room who can kind of side with Claire.
Yeah, because you're an ultra runner too, George, and we do not talk about it enough.
We don't. We really don't. He's gatekeeping it, and I can't stand it. How hard, for the average person going to listen or watch this, how hard is an ultra?
horrendous. And I've
And Claire's doing them for fun.
yeah, and I've never got to Claire's point where I've enjoyed it. I've done it, and I don't know whether, from my point of view, I think it's because I've grown up with so many siblings. I always wanted to prove, not I was better. That's the wrong thing to say, and if they're listening, I'm sorry. But I think I wanted to prove my worth or prove something, and I've never trained properly. I've trained, obviously, but never given it my all. I've just gone with it, and I've always said, and I wind Jade up at home saying, it's in your head. It's all in your head.
Yeah, it is.
If you can run through it, and the way I get through a lot of runs is either music or thinking about work and probably planning things in my head. If I was to run to work every day, I'd run with my laptop on my back, and I'd probably stop and think, I need to write that down. That's probably something that you've managed to park. I don't know whether you do. Do you take your laptop home?
No, so I leave it at work and just have another one at home if I need it.
Okay,
but it's all about the logistics. So I take all my stuff in my suitcase, and then I have to kind of plan the rest of the week. And you're right, it is the perfect. It's an hour and a half of no phone, no contact, pure thinking time, which is such a luxury.
Do you ever, sorry to interrupt, do you ever find yourself wanting to write something down?
Yes, so sometimes I will have to quickly grab my phone out and try and get in my notes, and often, you know, we were saying earlier about waiting for the creative idea to hit. It's exactly what happened to me this week. I've been doing a piece of work for a rebrand for one of our clients. I'd done all the work, I'd done all the research, I'd put everything together, but I just knew that I hadn't quite nailed the proposition. I knew I wasn't quite 100% happy with what I'd got to, and immediately I started running, and it landed in my head, and I had to get my phone out and just quickly write it down. And I'll often do that, or if I'm listening to a podcast, I'll just quickly have to make some notes while I'm running. And that is such a glorious thing and a gift, I think, that I enable myself. I give this gift to myself every morning of an hour and a half of kind of solitude and thinking time. And sometimes it's a podcast I'll listen to because I want to be inspired, or I want to learn something, or I want to just chill out. And sometimes it's music because I want to rev myself up for the day. And sometimes it's just silence, and I just allow myself just to think about work or my own thoughts. And I get to work a better person as a result of that.
In our office, obviously you always comment that I go to the gym, and it's a non-negotiable for me, and it has been for a few years. I went through a weight loss journey where I was 21 stone and dropped down to about 11, and I did CrossFit, done not ultra marathons but half marathons, and it's a non-negotiable for me. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. It's pitch black, it's horrible, it's raining, but I need to get there. I have to do it. And I feel like as a business owner, if you're wanting to start a fitness journey, I think as a business owner, it'd be really easy for you to start a fitness journey, because I think, like you're saying about the creative, you've already got that mental resilience in your head to start. And do you think that what came first, the business or the ultra running?
Running has been there for me since about 2016. So that's when I really started getting into running. But it really started to get really amplified around, kind of post-COVID times, like 2021, I would say, was when I really started training and running for ultras and started to build in this non-negotiable. So running wasn't just something that I would plan into my week if there was time. It just became something that was part of my week regardless. So I think both of those things are fed off each other, but I do also truly believe that having the mindset that I have now about running is the ultimate game changer for serotonin and the way that the agency has grown in terms of the way that I view the agency, the way that I behave in work, the way that I lead, the ambition that I have, the way that I approach problems. You were talking about like mindset for ultra running. I have this kind of mantra around the concept of everything is temporary. I have it on my bracelet here written, everything is temporary. And I think as soon as you realise that when you're in an ultra, and really you will go through a low point, you will be in the depths of despair. It might be blisters, it might be cold, it's raining, you've run out of fuel, you've gone the wrong way. All these things can happen, and some of them will be in your control and some of them won't be in your control. But once you start to take in the fact that it's okay, everything is temporary. If I keep pushing on, as long as I keep putting one foot in front of the other, I can get to the top of this mountain. And when I get to the top of this mountain, the sun might come out. And when the sun comes out, I will open my arms and I will fly down the mountain, and the best song in the world is going to come on, and I will feel joy like I've never felt before. And it's okay, because we will keep moving through these challenges as long as we keep putting one foot in front of the other. Now translate that to business. every single day
Yeah,
as a business owner.
It's really challenging.
You face things.
You do.
You may never have been in that situation
Yeah.
before. You may be able to control things. You may be not be able to. But once you start to think, I've just got to keep moving forwards. That's all I've got to do, because this is temporary. We can solve it. Keep going.
Yeah.
And as soon you'll get to the top of the mountain, the sun will come out.
Yeah, I think it's allowing yourself not to have an excuse, like with your non-negotiable. And when I used to do CrossFit, and when I've done a half marathon, and I feel like my legs are seizing up, and I really want to give in, and I just think to myself, there's people that are dying in the world, who are feeling a lot more pain than I am. And then I also watched a podcast where this guy was told he had stage 4 cancer, and then decided he was just going to keep running marathons. And then you had the guy Ross, who ran the length of Africa. And I just think, if I can't get through this workout and they can do that, what separates me to them? Because in reality, it's nothing. It's all in your head.
Definitely
isn't it?
gives you a sense of perspective that I think is so powerful in everything else. And I kind of always call it like the endurance mindset, but the more that you train that endurance mindset. So starting doing it is one thing, and often you hear people that are starting a fitness journey, or they're starting a couch to 5K, or I'm going to start running. I never really want to hear about things that people are starting.
Yes,
I want to hear about things that people are doing and have been doing and have been able to keep doing.
Yeah,
because that's where I think the real magic of endurance mindset kind of comes into play. Like, for example, I've started I'm not talking about starting things, but I have started a running club called High Peak Runners, because myself and a friend of mine,
I'm
George is going to come.
Yeah, you are.
You are. And what we identified was that there was a lot of people that was doing couch to 5Ks, and because they had a program to work towards, and they could feel that sense of getting to a certain goal, they would get to the goal and then they'd stop, because they would say, "Oh, I don't have to run next week because I reached my 5K goal." And rather than like putting a new goal in place, or even just trying to sustain where they were, they thought, well, I'm done now. I've achieved that goal. But what we wanted to do was to create a running group that enabled people to build consistency into their lives, particularly through winter, that wasn't about trying to achieve a specific goal, because the goal was just doing it every single week and being consistent regardless of the weather. And that was where the real celebration happened. And nobody really likes to celebrate that bit, because that's the boring, relentless bit, isn't it? It's that saying, what you do in the dark puts you in the light. I really believe in what you do in the dark. It should be celebrated.
Yeah,
so
correct.
getting up and running to work every day, it's not glamorous. I'm running down the A6. There's like trucks going past and buses going past, and it's pretty, it's a pretty boring route. And I'm not going to get any medals for it. But at the same time, what I'm doing in the dark is what's going to put me in the light at the end. And I think that's really what I'm interested in when I talk about endurance mindset.
Yeah, that's a nice mindset. Out of curiosity, how can you beat the train? You're not going to beat the train.
I used to try and race the train.
From that commute.
Depends. Northern Rail, sometimes it's quite easy to beat the train.
And did you, obviously knowing Dom, and I've seen his journey, so did you rub off onto Dom, because he does some wild stuff as well? So you've got two business owners at the top of the same business, who one's an ultra runner, and Don does
like triathlons and marathons.
Did you just do an Ironman as well?
Yeah. I definitely think that the way that we are about our fitness journeys and setting these goals is really complementary, and I think that because we both share that type of drive, it's really a kind of gives us a positive and solid leadership kind of partnership, if you like.
Sure.
Because he's not here, I'll say, I totally inspire him every day. Put words in his mouth.
and who wins in the race?
It's always going to be me.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, that's. I think, and then from my point of view, you're right. I am that person that hit an end goal and stopped. So I used to panic about 3 months before a run. I set the goal because I knew I needed to get fit. I don't have that routine. I've never had that routine in my life. And you know what? Now having a baby has actually made me implement that routine, because I realise time is short and you've got to do something with it. But I always used to hit that marathon, die the next day. I wouldn't be able to walk because I wouldn't train properly, and I'd fall off a cliff. And then I'd think I need another target to aim towards, and that's why I've done some silly things.
The mantra is, and a PT told me this, and he's probably read it off Pinterest, is fitness is a journey that should be started but never finished.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. And just playing on what Mitch said last week, he only thinks A to B. He never thinks A to Z because it's too far ahead and you can't do that. Getting to the top of that mountain, as you say, that's B, and then getting down the other side is working out your next step.
That's what so many people fail at, is that people are looking to go from A to Z so quickly.
I want to be £100 million business.
That's what unfortunately, it's a dark side to the marketing, the branding, that there is people out there that you market them in a certain way will tell the masses that you can get from A to Z overnight, and you just can't.
I mean, I think that the success so far of the story is not yet finished, but the success so far of serotonin, sometimes I think, hanging on when other people would have given up, because it's not been smooth. Of course, there's been times where it's been really difficult and we think, this is too much. We don't need this. We could just go away and freelance or do consultancy, and we don't need this. And this is as good as it gets. But if you just keep going, because everything is temporary, keep going to the top of the mountain, then there will be better things. And that has kept us, I think, on a growth journey, as opposed to allowing ourselves to stagnate, as I've seen, a lot of other, other kind of agencies kind of hit that wall. Domini and the mentality that we share is about pushing through, always, always, always.
And obviously that's with the extracurricular activities that you do outside of that. In terms of other passions, then, whilst you've got running, I'd say is your main passion. You're known for it, and you've got the business. What else gets you going in the morning? What else gets you excited outside of serotonin and running?
I mean, I just love being outdoors. So I live in the Peak District. We've got myself and my fiance, we have our camper van. So we spend as much time as possible throughout the year kind of travelling around in our camper van. And that's where I just feel peace. And I think that there's so much that's overwhelming in the day-to-day of running a business that I think that as long as you can find some kind of avenues to enable your brain to just have that decompression and that peace as well. And I love to write, and I find that as a really, talking about the creative, you find yourself having to write for others so often as a creative, and particularly around brand storytelling, that I really love when I can being able to just write for myself, or gifting words to others, and that's another way that I find a real kind of outlet for my creativity.
And you two have got, and I haven't got mine on, you've both got matching bands on. Do you want to tell everyone exactly what those bands mean? This
is my Create Brave band that I gave these bands to you guys when you came into the office, and another one that says everything is temporary. So Create Brave is a concept that I started to develop earlier on in this year. It actually came out of the good things come to those who create, going full circle back to our conversation earlier on. And I started to really think about tapping into the mindset of the type of people that engage with that statement and what it really means to be a creator. And I've always in my life come back to the word brave. The word brave means a lot to me, and I think at many junctures in my life I have chosen courage over enabling things just to kind of stay the same, and I've always kind of stepped into things that I'm afraid of in order to do brave things. So I was really interested in speaking to as many people as I can about what bravery means to them. Because I think we sometimes have this concept of bravery about this real like machismo idea of fight the dragon, get out there, you're so brave, and that strength and that very kind of masculine energy. Whereas actually I find, I have a big statement on my wall in the office that says courage is not the absence of fear. And I think when you are afraid of something but you do it anyway, that for me is true bravery and true courage. And so I really wanted to find out about different people's takes on that. So I'm having some really interesting conversations at the moment. So far it's all been with ultra runners, which is a bit of a niche that I'm finding myself in.
That's fine.
But because I think that I'm really like tapping into that mindset of why do people do these things? Why do they put themselves into these positions of discomfort and choose to do that and choose to push themselves into the unknown? And there must be a fear that sits within that. Yeah. And what does bravery mean to them?
I want to ask you a question. You're very brave, done a lot of mindset and brave. What are you scared of? Everyone's scared of something. Is it failure? Because I feel like it potentially might be failure.
I think failure is a really... I'm not going to avoid your question about what I'm afraid of. I'll come back to it. But I think failure is a really interesting concept because I genuinely don't think about failure in the same way that most people do.
Well, I think failure... I'll give you my opinion on failure. Failure to me is success, because you learn more from fails than you do win.
I genuinely think that for failure is a perception.
Yeah, correct.
It's a perception thing. And for that reason, I find it quite difficult to kind of even talk about failure or times that I failed, because even though there's been really challenging times in my life or things that have broken down in my life or not gone to plan, usually out of those things come
a lesson,
yeah, or a pivot or a change of direction. And I think if you're courageous and you enable yourself to see failure and twist your perception of it and then move forward in a courageous way, then failure doesn't become what that word means. It ends up being something that opens doors for you.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm afraid of failure, because I think that it would take me somewhere else, that I believe in myself I would get there. But I think, what am I afraid of? I don't like being completely out of control of things, I think. So I think, even when I'm in a difficult situation, my first thought is, what can I control in this situation? That's what I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to focus on the things that I can't control. I'm not going to focus on somebody else's perception of me, or I'm not going to focus on what other people are doing. I'm going to focus on what I can control about that situation. So I try and kind of pull everything back to that, and that's what again gives me strength to get through something that might otherwise be a really scary moment for me.
Yeah.
So do you think putting yourself into positions where, say, you're on a podcast like today or stage events, do you think that adrenaline is what's fueling you to do the next one or the next one? Are you getting a buzz from that, which ultimately is leading you to, I suppose, want to achieve success and push yourself further and develop you as a person and a brand?
Yeah, I definitely do get nervous. I like, coming here today, it's nerve-wracking. And, obviously you two are great, but it's still nerve-wracking that we're going to be recording this conversation and it's going to go out into the world. And what if I say something stupid? All these things. But I do also enjoy challenging myself.
Yeah.
And I also think, if not me, then who? I'll do it. I'll always put myself forward for something. I'll go for it. I'll do it. And I'll take the opportunity. And if someone's going to put it in front of me, I always say yes. I'll grab it with both hands. That's how I am. And I think that that's what's kind of pushed me on to do things. So, yeah, I'm. It's not so much craving the adrenaline, but I love to challenge myself. And I love to walk away from a challenge and feel like, I faced it even though I was afraid.
Yeah, and I suppose I do the same when people say to you, "Oh, I wish I had your confidence." No, I don't have the confidence.
No.
The night before, I'm absolutely patting myself, and I'm there wanting to push myself. You come off a stage event, you come off something, and you get an absolute adrenaline rush, don't you, in a high, and then obviously you're getting people interacting. Even a best man speech at a wedding.
Yeah,
you get
still
that buzz,
nerve-wracking.
absolutely, but you're putting yourself into that spot.
But again, it's the mindset of the only thing that you're worried about is other people's perceptions about what you're saying on that stage. There's nothing actually scary about it. It's all, again, the mindset and the perception of what you think the listener is thinking about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what does Create Brave look like in a year's time? What's that? What's your journey?
I love that. So if I have the time to dedicate to it, I've had some really fascinating conversations so far with a couple of people, and I've got another one coming up in a few weeks' time. And it's been slightly different so far. So we've had a live event, which was really brilliant and really fantastic, inspiring. Had about 60 people come along to listen to a conversation by Ali Bailey, who's an ultra runner and author. So I'd love to do more of that, kind of the live event type of thing, and bring people together and to have these quite challenging conversations. But I've also then been recording, audio and visual kind of YouTube style conversations too, which I think I'd love to try and keep putting those out on a regular basis. Ideally for me, it's about building community around this concept of courage and endurance mindset, and making sure that as many people as possible can relate to or resonate with some of the learnings that I've had and the experiences of the people that I speak to, that they might then be able to apply it to their own lives. And I think that there's a lot of people that would be kind of inspired and learn from that. Growing.
I feel like it's a good concept, because I like to think that I think of the world in layman's terms, and I feel like there's a lot of people who think that they see something on the internet and it's relatable to them, but ideally it's actually not. I feel like what you're doing is building something that's relatable to not a certain group of people, but something that everyone can kind of resonate to.
You don't need to run an ultra marathon to understand what it takes to just train yourself in resilience, whatever that may be, and to see value in what you're doing with that, and see the benefit of it in your life, and to understand that to be brave doesn't mean not to be scared of doing something, but it means putting yourself in a position of discomfort and going for it anyway, and then reflecting on that and seeing how far you've come. Anyone can relate that to anything. You don't need to run 100 kilometres. Trust me.
Yeah, well, when I was losing
if
weight...
you want to, come chat.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, George, you are doing
George,
it.
come on, George.
Yeah, well, you're going to vlog the whole thing and I'm going to watch it, all of it.
I've got to go.
When I was losing weight, I always... And it was simple steps that I put into place, which was, and I still do them now, that I'd take the stairs rather than the escalator. Some days, obviously, like today, my legs are really hurting, so I did take the lift. But when you go to the supermarket, take the stairs, not the escalator. Do you want to take that easy route or do you want to take the hard route? Which one do you want to do? And I feel like putting yourself in a position where I feel like it's not just like you're saying going on an ultra marathon. It's putting smaller steps, everyday lifestyle steps to make something a little bit harder, and then it becomes routine.
Yeah, totally.
I think again you mentioned inspiration and inspire. So again, we started this podcast with a view that originally we wanted to inspire people into the construction industry and show everybody the multitude of different trades and different people. It's evolved from there, and we've bumped into interesting people with interesting stories, and we've decided actually we're trying to inspire people that you don't always set out to do what you want to do. The corporate and the character, we're both sat in different roles, and when we were 15, 16, when we thought we wanted to do a job, we're doing something completely different, if you like. And that's, again, your story from prison. She went to prison. Prison through to where you are now. It's just a nice, inspiring journey to show. And do you know what? I don't even think it now appeals to the younger generation, which we were trying to inspire to say, hey, come and have a look. I think it appeals to anybody now.
I just feel like this podcast, every person we have on has got such a different story that it's almost limitless. And what you describe a vast landscape is you can't appeal to the masses. You can't, or just one group of people. Feel like it's just allowing people to give their stories.
This is the joy, right? You guys can turn this into whatever you need it to be and whatever you want it to be, and you'll find that it will organically just grow into something that is, that is relevant to the way that you are and the way that you behave and the things that interest and inspire you. And if things are going to interest and inspire you, more than likely they're going to interest and inspire people who are like you or kind of want to learn from you. So just keep having interesting conversations, I think, and seeing where it takes you.
Because like George said, originally it was going to be a construction related one, and I think you had some ideas about fit out and stuff like that, and then I thought to myself, what we do is actually quite boring, and there's a lot more people out there who've probably got a lot more interesting things to say and journeys that we could bring on, not just on that. And again, that will work for some people, and some people's podcasts will be fit out or construction related, but we didn't really want to go down that route, did we?
I think what we realised is actually the fun bit of what we do, taking it from conception to completion, is the people, the process you take them on, the design journey you go on, not the bricks and mortar, the plasterboard and the stud. That's the boring bit. And some of the accreditations you've got to tick to make sure your office is appealing to the wider market from a sustainability point of view. That's part of the process, but working with the people in the middle, that's the fun bit. And that's where we realised, obviously, relationships are key. Speaking to people is great fun. And again, that's why we're here today.
Yeah. And on the fun bit, we're going to ask you some quick fire questions.
Okay, hit me.
So, first job.
Night shift at Sainsbury's.
Working from home or working from the office?
Working from the office, apart from Monday morning. Sometimes I wish I was at home.
Most famous person you've ever met?
Sally Lindsay gave me my Businesswoman of the Year award, and my team were way more excited about that being Sally Lindsay than me winning anything.
I don't know who's
that. Coronation Street.
Well, you're at Media City, so what's your biggest fear?
Balloons. Balloons are too unpredictable. They could pop at any time, and also they're disgusting.
I love a balloon.
I'm going to let you do these next.
And some more fun questions. What's the oddest request you've had from a client?
All our clients are amazing, but sometimes it's about managing expectations. So photo shoots when it's raining, but they want us to make it sunny, that type of thing. So controlling the weather.
You've chosen the wrong day. Yeah. So what's the funniest thing that's happened to you on a work day?
I just like watching our team doing TikToks because it just happens across the office, and I'm like, what the hell is going on over there?
When there's no sound on, or you just say it's funny. In terms of obviously you mentioned copywriting, you love writing. What would your autobiography be titled?
Find a Way or Make One.
I like that.
You've definitely got that in the motion, haven't you?
And if you had to eat one food daily, what would that be?
Okay, I've got a hack for that. It's potatoes, because potatoes are extremely
Versatile.
diverse. I can have fries. I can have roasted potatoes. I can have jacket potatoes. I can have crisps. So yeah, I've hacked that
And
question.
you've jumped to the carb, obviously, to help you fuel.
Yeah.
And what would your superpower be?
I would love to control time, but also would like to fly. I think I'll fly.
Yeah, I'd like
Save the legs, Claire. Save the legs.
Save the legs.
Do enough running. So that concludes our podcast.
I don't want it to end. Can we do episode 2?
Yeah, we can do. What was it, 3.2?
Yeah,
we'll go on.
3.2.
Yeah.
But honestly, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're an
Thank you.
incredible person, and the accolades are definitely well deserved.
Thank you so much for having me.